In this video, I'm doing a quick test of Google's NotebookLM. This is a tool from Google where you can upload your own content and then it will be able to do summarization, search, questions and answers over top of that content, and it is super cool. Who knows if Google will kill this product, and it seems to have been around for a few months. It just started to gain some steam, I think because of a feature that I'm about to show, and that is the ability to generate a podcast from your content with two different speakers conversing over that content. Now, one of the things that I have been doing is I have my assistant, she catalogs all of this information and interviews about thought leaders that I want to study. And this has been a personal project for me. I had a channel called Leader Lesson that I put together where I orchestrated a bunch of LLM prompts to build stories for me to learn from those thought leaders. I would often go into and get obsessed with certain thought leaders and just rip through every single interview that they had. What I did with that particular project was I would have at least 50 interviews per thought leader, have those consolidated down, generate a top 10 list of their principles, then generate chapters and key takeaways to cover each one of those principles. This was super useful for me. The channel was never super popular. It was called Leader Lesson on YouTube. I think because some of the thought leaders on that content were, major thought leaders like Jeff Bezos, etc., that I think it got deranked in the algorithm, or maybe it wasn't that great, but I really liked it. So with that, my test today is to take the Jensen Huang interviews that I had, which are 50, the founder of Nvidia, and I'm putting those into the NotebookLM. I uploaded those from my database, just a text file with all 50 interviews, and I'll show you what it did as far as the categorization and the question and answer over those interviews. And then from there, I'll play the podcast that it generated. So this is a quick test, super cool, and probably a lot of use. Our consultancy, we're a Microsoft focused shop, but if Google has some great tools for us to put content into and to have Q&A over, we're definitely open to it. So super stoked for this product to test it out. So let's see how it goes. All right, so here's NotebookLM. This is the transcripts that I just uploaded. This is 50 interviews from Jensen Huang. Pulled these out of my SQL database and just dumped them down into a text file here. And you can see it's this long list. I didn't separate this out into separate files. I think a lot of the power of this tool is going to be if you can actually upload multiple documents, everything else. I just happen to have everything in a SQL database that I just dumped this out for tonight to test this out. From here, you can see if I go to Notebook Guide, it will give a summary of the content and then a table of contents, a study guide, a whole bunch of different stuff here, which is absolutely awesome. And it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect for what I was trying to do, which is to learn from thought leaders. Now, I just uploaded Jensen's transcripts in here only, but I have, I think, 30 or so thought leaders that I want to try to upload them all into a single notebook. And I wish I could take this notebook and share it outside of me and make it public in some way. So if Google sees this, or if anybody knows anybody at Google, public notebooks would be amazing for maybe read-only access to share this out, because if I had this content and I could share all this thought leader content that I consolidated into this database and share this out, it'd be awesome. So in here, the summary says the sources are transcripts from a series of interviews with Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, discussing the company's history, current technologies, and future prospects in the field of artificial intelligence. Huang emphasizes the importance of accelerated computing for AI development and highlights Nvidia's contributions to democratizing scientific computing. He discusses the emergence of generative AI as a transformative technology, outlining how it is impacting various industries and accelerating scientific discovery. Additionally, Huang speaks about the strategic importance of building company culture and empowers employees to do their life's work, and the need for visionary leadership to guide innovation in a rapidly changing technological landscape. Super cool. I know these interviews inside and out, and that's absolutely what they're about. And in here, generates a table of contents, study guide, which would be perfect for studying these thought leaders, timeline, which is really interesting here. And then let's ask what I did before. Earlier, probably about 20, 30 minutes ago, I generated the actual the actual podcast here that you'll see here. And for that, I'm going to play that at the end so you can hear what one of these would sound like. Basically, over 50 transcripts from Jensen Huang. From here, so let's go through here and just ask a question real quick over the content. Let's say, what does Jensen think about suffering? So let's see. So Jensen has a lot of famous clips now on social media around suffering in some of his most recent interviews. So Huang views suffering, or more specifically, the ability to endure it, as a key characteristic of successful people. He refers to this ability as grit and believes that those who can endure the most suffering are ultimately the ones who are the most successful. And it gives a link out here. We'll go through here in a second. He sees direct link between suffering and success. He believes suffering is a necessary part of tackling difficult problems. He values learning from suffering rather than dwelling on it. He encourages a culture of embracing challenges at Nvidia. So then let's click on this. And then I'm assuming that that's taking me someplace in my big blob of text. I guess it's citing the article. It's actually not taking me directly to the place in the document. Let me see if I click this, if it takes me. I guess that's not working yet. But in all fairness, I dumped a gigantic text file in here. So maybe that would work better with separate text files. That does not seem to be working here. All right. So this is super cool. I'm going to play the video. I'm going to put on the end of this video the audio that was generated for the podcast that was generated for this. So NotebookLM, this is a free tool from Google. Who knows how long it will be around, because Google is known to kill some things, but this is really a glimpse into the future of really managing your data with large language models. Super, super cool. All right. Thanks for watching.
All right. Let's jump into this deep dive. We're tackling Jensen Huang and Nvidia today.
Big topic.
Yeah, but we're not just talking about, chips and GPUs. We want to go deeper than that.
Right.
This is about Huang's vision, his whole thing about the future of computing.
Exactly. And how it ties into everything you're into, right?
Yeah.
AI changing the game, whole industry transforming.
It's huge. And we've got a ton to work with. Interviews, keynotes, those fireside chat things, all that over years too.
What's fascinating to me is Huang's not just like riding the wave. He's ahead of it,
Yeah.
He's been saying for decades that the usual way of doing computing is going to hit a wall.
It's true. Like, he could see the bottlenecks forming before anyone else even knew.
Way before AI and deep learning were, buzzwords. He was talking about acceleration back then.
Okay, but just to start, can we talk about the fact that Nvidia, it starts in a Denny's? Come on, that's a story.
It's almost too good to be true, the Denny's origin story.
It's so perfect, right? For a tech company, makes them human.
It is. It makes it relatable.
It wasn't some fancy Silicon Valley thing.
No boardroom.
Just three guys probably hopped up on coffee.
Grand Slam breakfast, maybe.
And they're changing the world. And Huang, right, he's not a business guy at this point.
Yeah.
Uses his own money, because that's all he's got, to make the company official.
Shows you something about his style. It wasn't about like the perfect business plan or chasing investors right away. He just knew in his gut that this vision, even if it sounded crazy, it was right.
So break it down for me. Why were CPUs such a problem for him? I mean, they were the whole game back then.
That's just it. They were good at everything, but in a way that he saw would become a weakness. Jack of all trades, master of none. He knew they'd hit a limit, like a computational wall, to handle the huge data, the crazy calculations that were coming. You'd need something specialized, something built for pure speed.
And that's where the gaming thing comes in, right? Because at the time, that market, it barely existed.
Huge risk, no question. They're making a solution for a problem most people didn't even know existed yet.
So not just throwing darts at a board, hoping something hits.
It was calculated. Huang saw gaming as the proving ground. That world, it was changing so fast, always needing more power.
A little microcosm of what was to come.
Exactly. It was like boot camp for their tech, Build a following with developers, prove you can handle the really tough stuff.
It's like he was playing 4D chess and everyone else had checkers. That gamble, though, to go against the grain, that's what led to, well, everything Nvidia is now.
The first revolution, you could say. And it set the stage for the AI revolution to come.
This is where Huang's vision gets really interesting, I think. It's bigger than just, let's make the fastest graphics cards. He keeps saying platform, building an ecosystem. What does that even mean in this context?
It's crucial, and it's why Nvidia is not just a hardware company, right? Huang knew that the hardware by itself, even if it's amazing, it's only as good as the software you can run on it.
Makes sense.
He was picturing this world where they're not just selling you a piece of tech, they're giving you a whole way to use it. Developers especially, they needed to be able to really unlock what this could do.
So like you build this super fast car, but then you got to provide the track and the mechanics and all that so people can actually push it to the limit.
Perfect analogy. And this is where CEDA comes in. Huge part of their whole thing.
Okay, now you're talking my language, maybe. For those of us who don't speak fluent NVIDIA, break down CUDA. Why is it so important?
CUDA is their parallel processing platform, basically. It's a whole different way of programming so developers can tap into the GPUs for way more than just, making pretty pictures.
Okay.
Think of it like they gave developers a new language to talk to the hardware directly, and that language unlocks a whole new level of performance.
Gotcha. And on top of that, they've got these things, SDKs, right? Software development kits.
Exactly. SDKs are like pre-packaged toolboxes for software developers. They get pre-built software components, libraries, and example code, all these things that make it easier and faster to build applications for NVIDIA's platform.
So it's all about making it as user-friendly as possible for these developers to actually use this crazy powerful hardware.
Exactly. And there's another piece to this puzzle that Huang really gets, backwards compatibility.
Right. I've heard him go on about that.
It's huge, especially for developers. It means that if you write software for an older NVIDIA GPU, it's not going to suddenly become useless when a new generation comes out. It'll still run, and often even faster.
That is wild because in the tech world, that almost never happens, right?
Almost never. It's a brilliant strategy from NVIDIA, though, because it builds so much loyalty with developers. They know the code they're writing now will still be relevant years down the line.
It's like knowing your investment isn't going to evaporate overnight. And then the crypto boom hits. Talk about a curveball.
Right out of left field.
It's like this tidal wave of demand for GPUs, but not for the reasons anyone expected. Did that throw NVIDIA for a loop?
Definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
Suddenly, everyone and their grandmother wanted a GPU to mine Bitcoin. Demand went through the roof, then crashed just as fast. It was chaotic.
And that's where being able to adapt really comes into play.
Huge. They saw the opportunity, but also the risk. It would have been so easy to go all in on crypto, but Huang didn't overextend. They rode the wave, but never lost sight of their long-term goals.
They didn't let themselves get distracted from what they were really building.
Exactly. It goes back to Huang's leadership, that ability to see the bigger picture, even in the middle of total chaos.
And this brings us to, I guess, the biggest part of the NVIDIA story so far, the AI explosion.
It's wild to think about. It's like all those years building these specialized chips, creating that whole platform. It was all leading up to this.
Totally.
Huang said himself, how AI, deep learning especially, it just pushed computing harder than anyone expected, even him. And he was ahead of the curve.
Right.
CPUs, the way they're designed, general purpose and all, they just weren't made for this. The sheer amount of data, the calculations, deep learning was on another level.
It wasn't just let's make GPUs a bit faster anymore. This was a whole different beast. Yeah.
Completely. Deep learning, it's like, imagine feeding a computer a library every day and expecting it to make sense of it all. That's the kind of data we're talking about. And doing billions, trillions of calculations every second.
My brain hurts just trying to picture that.
GPUs, though, they could handle it.
Yeah.
Built for this parallel processing, crunching tons of stuff at once.
Yeah.
Like they were made for this moment, even if it wasn't obvious yet.
Okay, so it's like they were building a rocket while everyone else was still figuring out the wheel, kind of.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
But even with this tech, Huang knew. NVIDIA couldn't do it solo. You can't just hand someone a rocket and say, good luck.
Right. What are they going to do with it? Need the whole infrastructure.
Data centers. That was the next hurdle. How do you bring this power to the cloud where all that data was living? That was huge.
And this is where it gets really smart, I think. They didn't try to become like the next Google building these mega data centers themselves.
Way too much, even for them.
Exactly. So partnerships, right. That was the key.
Huge. They team up with Amazon, Google, Microsoft, all the big players.
Yeah.
So NVIDIA became the arms dealer of the AI revolution, providing the tools while the giants built the actual,
the battlefield.
more like the gold mines.
Yeah.
And everyone wins.
So smart. Instead of going head to head, they become essential. No NVIDIA, no AI, boom, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But even now, as NVIDIA is AI, that's their thing. Huang's looking ahead again. Talk about software 3.0. whole other level stuff.
Yeah, this is where it starts to feel like sci-fi almost. Programming with human language.
Right. Not code, but the way we talk.
So I wouldn't need to be some coding whiz. I could just tell an AI what to do like it's a person.
Theoretically, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the dream anyway. Open up AI to everyone, no matter how techie they are. Imagine the potential. If anyone can speak to AI,
I can barely speak to my smart speaker now, so.
well, there's the challenge, right?
Yeah.
But the possibilities are huge. And then you've got the metaverse stuff, too.
Right, and Huang's not just talking VR goggles here. He's talking bigger, way bigger.
He sees it touching everything. How things are designed, how they're made, how we learn, work, play. The whole 9 yards. The line between digital and real life, it's blurring.
And it's all built on this foundation of AI, of that crazy computing power.
Exactly. He calls it multimodal AI. Vision, speech, language. It all blends together. Like, an AI wouldn't just understand your words, but your tone, even your facial expressions.
Okay, now that's getting a bit too real.
Right. But that's Huang. He's not just keeping up. He's setting the pace. He's playing a whole different game. And I think the big takeaway here for anyone listening is this. Maybe adapting isn't enough anymore. AI is changing everything faster and faster. So maybe we need to think like Huang, be the ones anticipating, the ones solving the problems nobody else even sees yet. That's how you shape the future.
Love that. Think bigger, think ahead. Awesome stuff.
And that's our deep dive on Jensen Huang and Nvidia. Until next time, keep those brains busy.